Leader 1 is ready to return to the skies. In today's game, Dan Kitchen's Tomcat, the F-14 fighter simulator for your Atari 2600. And I really like this box art. That is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take Tomcat, pop it in my Atari 7800 Pro system, and see how it holds up today. Let's go to the game. Tomcat, the F-14 fighter simulator, was published by Absolute and carries a copyright year of 1988, meaning it came out when the NES ruled the Toys R Us aisles. It was programmed by Dan Kitchen, who also programmed the 2600 version of Ghostbusters, which are reviewed in episode 286. According to the manual, you are at the controls of your F-14 Tomcat fighter at 1900 hours, waiting to receive authorization for takeoff from the USS Enterprise. During your mission, you'll face the enemy's most challenging air combat forces. At your disposal are state-of-the-art computer controls and weapon systems of one of the Navy's most sophisticated fighters, the F-14 Tomcat. Your first takeoff will be during daylight hours, but by the time you receive orders to return to the USS Enterprise, you'll notice the approach of dusk and you'll have to successfully perform a most dangerous nighttime landing on the aircraft carrier. Your next mission will be a night mission. You'll have to take off, engage in combat, and return to the Enterprise in total darkness, relying more on your computer control systems to see you through safely. Tomcat F-14 Fighter is a flight simulator for one player only and only has one standard mode of difficulty. You start the game on the deck of the USS Enterprise, whose 5-year mission is to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no man has gone before. Once you are fueled up, you can take off by holding the button and pressing up on the joystick until the engine percentage reaches 216%. After which you will be catapulted off and need to hold down on the joystick to raise your altitude and avoid crashing into the water, which would end your game since you only get a single life. When in the air, moving the joystick left and right moves you likewise. Up dives down and down climbs up. To enter into dogfights, you must reach an altitude of 5,000. The button fires your selected weapon. The select button on the system scrolls through different displays on your computer. The right difficulty switch raises or lowers your arresting hook, and the left difficulty switch raises or lowers your landing gear. When you take off, the landing gear is lowered, and the arresting hook is raised in whatever position your difficulty switches are at the time. You can also tell the position of your landing gear by looking at the red lever on the bottom left of your screen, and the position of the resting hook by looking at the red lever at the bottom right. When you are on the Stats 1 screen, while holding the button down, you can press up on the joystick to increase your speed and down to decrease your speed. To save fuel after you take off, the manual recommends lowering your speed to under 100%. On the Threat menu screen, you could switch your weapons and turn on the ECM or electronic countermeasures, which is recommended you do right after takeoff. You start armed with AIM-57 missiles, which are good for long-range attacks. You also have AIM-9 missiles, which are heat-seeking sidewinders that are best used when you are on your opponent's tails, and AIM-7 Sparrow infrared missiles, which are best used when you can see your opponent. You start with 15 of each missile type and are automatically rearmed with another missile type when you run out of one. You can also select your M61 machine gun, which has 675 rounds of ammunition. This is only effective at close range, and if you hold down on the button too long, a red light will appear on your instrument panel warning you that you're in danger of overheating your guns, and if it turns bright red, they will indeed overheat and you will have to wait a while for them to cool off. On the threat screen, which you can select at any time but also appears when an enemy is near, if you press the reset button on the system, you can use the joystick to pick either your ECM, missiles, or machine guns, and press the button to either turn on or off your ECMs, select a type of missile, or switch to your guns. When the enemy is near, you will see a screen that shows where the bogey is, and use your joystick to maneuver to try to get him in front of you. As you close in, you will see a small dot in the distance that will grow larger as he gets closer. When you have a missile armed, the crosshair will turn red for a lock, but you have to fire quickly as the lock can easily be lost. Once a missile is fired, you cannot fire another one or switch to your machine guns until that missile either hits or passes by the target. It takes one missile shot to destroy a bogey and about 3 seconds worth of machine gun fire too. If the enemy gets behind you and fires a missile, a graph will appear on your screen showing you the missile in relation to you if your ECMs are on. To shake a missile off, you basically need to maneuver all over the place. When you are running low on fuel or ammo, it will turn night and you will need to land. This is easily the most complicated part of the game. When you get the call to land, you will need to go to your Stats 2 screen and maneuver your fighter so that the compass heading, or CHDG, is between 30 and 40 degrees. You also need to lower your landing gear and a resting hook. And you need to go to the landing screen, reducing your thrust to 30% and dropping your altitude to below 2,000. Once you get close enough, you will see your aircraft carrier in the distance and a landing display on your computer screen. Here you need to keep the dot in the middle of the horizontal indicator and try to fly in between 60 and 80 feet altitude according to the manual. Once you are over the deck, you will hear a warning sound telling you to press up to land. If you land successfully, you will need to turn off your engines and get ready to take off for a night mission. If your landing fails for any reason, including forgetting to lower your landing gear or hook, not being centered, being too high or too low, or going too fast, you will explode, ending your game. Your game also ends if you crash into the ocean, are shot down by an enemy's missile, or if you run out of gas, which will also lead to a crash. If you happen to land again after the all-night mission, you will start another day mission. Whenever you land on the aircraft carrier, or if your game ends, you will get a rank from 0 to 9. The manual lists what the rankings are, starting at civilian and topping out at Top Gun graduate. It seems that the more enemies you shoot down with the least amount of missiles used leads to a higher ranking. If you are good with the machine gun, it can help you get a better ranking since it doesn't count as a missile shot. Also, it's possible to lower your rank in between landings due to poor performance. Graphically speaking, I think the game looks pretty good for a 2600 title, especially the cockpit view. Sound and music wise, there are not a lot of sounds used, but I think that the engine sound fits well, and I even like how you can hear the breaking of the sound barrier once you get going fast enough after takeoff. Family friendly wise, there's really nothing objectionable here, and I expect that this game would get an E for everyone rating if released today, although the game may be too complex for younger gamers. At the time I researched on eBay, including shipping, only one loose copy had sold recently for $10 and one new copy sold for $16. I should also mention that some Atari 7800 versions of the game were mislabeled as a 2600 version, so if you buy a loose copy off of eBay, there's a chance you'll get a mislabeled Atari 7800 version instead, but that might be a good thing since that version is worth a little bit more. So what did I think of Tomcat, the F-14 fighter simulator? This is complicated, but I like it a lot. Is it near perfect? No. There is quite a learning curve to the game, and having to use the system switches means you need to stay close to your system. It can also be quite cumbersome. Switching weapons in the middle of a fight and evading missiles or flying at night can be pretty challenging. But the biggest weakness is the extreme difficulty of landing the Tomcat, which more often than not will end in a crash. So if you do land, give yourself a huge pat on the back. But drawbacks aside, I had a lot of fun with Tomcat F-14. This game does a great job with the overall atmosphere, including the hum of your engines, dealing with the darkness at night, and the fact that the enemy can pop out at any moment. It also keeps you on the edge of your seat whenever you have to evade an enemy missile or when you do try to land. Being a flight sim on the 2600 that is more complex than the majority of the system's library means that this game most likely has a niche audience at best, but you can include me in that group as I really did like it. So where am I going to rank Tomcat F-14? A lot higher than almost anyone else would, and I think I'm going to put it right in between the two racers, Enduro at 26 and Pole Position at 27. So out of the 137 games I've now ranked on the 2600, Tomcat, the F-14 fighter simulator, is flying into the 27th position. Tomcat F-14 may not be for everyone, but if you don't mind flight sims, watered down for the 2600 that have a learning curve, I highly recommend it. So what do you think of the game? Whether you agree or disagree with me, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Also feel free to click the like and subscribe buttons and follow me both on the Facebook or the Twitter. I'm also a member of the Retro Junkies Network. At this time, I'd like to thank the extraordinary Nick from the Genesis Gems podcast for supporting the show through Patreon. Thanks, Nick. If you appreciate the work I do, please consider joining the League of Extraordinary Patreon Supporters by signing up at patreon.com/NoSwearGamer. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time in the next episode of No Swear Gamer. Take care and don't forget to pull up when taking off.